From the Colorado Sun, this is Can Colorado Do More with Less Water? A podcast where we explore the solutions taking place across the state to address water scarcity. We heard from hundreds of Coloradoans from all corners of the state, and we set out to answer your water questions. Where's the water going? How is it being conserved? How are the states adapting to it? Who is doing their share to save Colorado's precious water? This episode focuses on agriculture. We talk to some farmers and experts on the hopes and challenges for drought-resilient crops in Colorado. I'm team editor David Krause. Before we jump into today's conversation, here's a quick message from our sponsor.
Every water decision today shapes Colorado's tomorrow. In the lower Arkansas Valley, those choices affect irrigated agriculture, rural communities, and our state's economy. The Lower Arkansas Valley Water Conservancy District provides trusted information and works with partners to advance practical solutions that protect our water, agriculture, and way of life. Learn more at lowerark.com.
Now, back to the show. Conversations about water conservation always start on the farm. The three-headed water-sucking monster of long-term climate change, short-term drought, and population growth is pushing Colorado's water sources to the brink. Dozens of readers asked us why farmers can't just grow something different and give their thirsty crops like alfalfa and corn a rest. We talked to some farmers, and their response is they are, but it's just not so simple.
There's no silver bullet. It's all silver BBs. We're going to have to do all of this. Do alternate crops have a role to play? Absolutely. But it's not going to be everything.
That's Heather Dutton, manager of the San Luis Valley Water Conservation District and co-founder of the Rye Resilience Project. She says conserving water comes down to a combination of weather, agrimony, and cash flow. The alternative crops, welcoming markets, and technology all play a part as well. For a farmer to change the seeds they put in the ground, they need assurances from buyers that there is a market for a more resilient crop. Sally Jones Diamond, director of Colorado State University's crop testing program, says there are plenty of factors to consider when planting, but the bottom line is the most important.
Where to market the crop at the end of the season, how much it costs to put the crop in, how it fits with their current crop rotation, timing, field conditions. There's a lot better choices agronomically of a crop that won't use as much water as corn. But markets for corn are, you can take it anywhere almost.
Troy Waters is a farmer on the Western Slope who's experimented with camelina, also known as false flax, along with his alfalfa.
I thought camelina is a wonderful crop. Mm-hmm. It's easy to grow. It uses a lot less water, uses a lot less fertilizer.
It's easy to grow and used in biofuels, but he's struggled to find a market for it as political winds change.
So, if you can't turn a profit on it, farmers don't farm just for the fun of it. We got to make a living.
But markets can be moved. Enter the Rye Resurgency Project, which is marketing a winter cover crop in the San Luis Valley that uses a fraction of the water needed by other valley grains to your table.
If we can get San Luis Valley rye into more, I would say, of the makers' hands, the people making bread, making flour, whiskey, beer, cookies, all these people that are using rye, if more of them choose to use San Luis Valley rye, or if more people that aren't using rye start using San Luis Valley rye, and then more people eat it and drink it, that gives farmers options.
Big picture, farmers are trying, but markets matter, and it takes a statewide approach to succeed.
Why don't farmers grow crops that use less water? Farmers grow what they can sell. And so as the end users, I think every person in Colorado has a role to play, because what we buy is influencing what farmers are growing.
Joining me now is our lead reporter for this Sun Solution series. Michael Booth is an environmental writer here at the Colorado Sun. Mike, the most frequent water questions we had in our survey were on agriculture, and many were a version of the can't Colorado farmers grow crops that use less water? It's just not that simple, though, is it, Mike?
It isn't, but that kind of complexity is what we really wanted to dive into in the Water Solution series that we're working on. And it kind of starts with that 90% number you're talking about. We've tried to drill this into people's heads over and over again at the Sun over the last 6 or 7 years as the droughts get worse and worse. And every spring we start out even worse than the year before. And we try to let people know some kind of the basic facts that we stipulate about what it's like to live in Colorado. And one of them is that 90%, somewhere between 85 and 90% of the available water in Colorado is used for agriculture. And so we wanted to look at, if people are wondering, where can we save water? Who's doing their part? One of the first questions they're going to have, and they do have, as they've told us many times in forums and online and in emails, is, okay, well, what are the farmers doing to save their water? Are they using different irrigation methods? Are they selling their water to the cities? Are they, in the case that we wrote about this first time in the series, are they trying a different crop? Are there crops that use less water? And again, some of the basic facts that we stipulate to people, a lot of water in Colorado is used to grow alfalfa. And that alfalfa is then used to feed either dairy cattle or beef cattle. It's the high protein source, very nutritious. All the farmers and ranchers are used to using it. But in often cases, we're literally exporting water from Colorado in the shape of an alfalfa hay bale that goes to Texas for dairy cattle, or even goes as far as Saudi Arabia for dairy cattle there. So is that the smartest use of our water? And are there things that people have worked on that could be grown differently? There are quite a few things that are using less water. And then the question becomes, is anybody going to buy it at the other end? Farmers can grow it. Is anybody going to buy it?
Mike, talk about that sentiment. Farmers use 90% of the state's water, but 100% of Coloradoans consume food, right? How does that square with the agriculture community?
I think it's kind of almost a dig back at city folks that when we go out, and we frequently do in Colorado with the Colorado Sun, is to go out and talk to farmers and ranchers about what they're doing on the ground. And we present these problems and say, okay, our whole point is to ask who is doing their part. And agriculture uses a lot of it. And before they're happy to answer that question, they're happy to go into detail. But first they want to point out, yes, but 100% of you are eating the food that we grow here in Colorado. And that's true up to a point, but sometimes it's cattle that are eating the food that they are growing. It's not going directly to humans. So they are also happy to entertain the next question of, what is the highest and best use of water? And is there a way that we can still make happy? We can keep everybody, as many people as possible, farming and ranching, and still grow something that uses less water and save water to leave in the Colorado River, or save water that can be then sold to cities that are growing and need water for housing. So the Colorado State University and a lot of very smart people in Colorado are working on these issues, and they will come up with an alternative crop. The alfalfa uses 44 inches of water a year to grow a full crop in Colorado. And by contrast, what we need to remind people is that on the Eastern Plains, it's only raining 13 or 14 or 15 inches in a good year between snow and rain. And so that's not enough to grow alfalfa. You have to bring that water from somewhere else. You have to irrigate it. You have to run canals. You have to run pipelines. So there are alternative crops. Say one thing we will talk about in a little bit is a crop called black-eyed peas, only uses about 13 inches of water in a year to grow a very good crop.
In corn, as you reported, corn takes roughly 26 inches a year of water. Sugar beets even more, roughly 34 inches?
Yep. And you can grow corn and you can grow wheat in what's called dryland farming, meaning you're not introducing extra irrigation. You're just kind of relying on what happens to fall from the sky in a given year. And you just won't grow nearly as much corn per acre or as many bushels of wheat per acre in dryland farming. So it can be done, but then your economics get much dicier and you have fewer margins. And if you have a hailstorm, or it doesn't rain for a month in June, you're really hurting, even more than usual on the farm. So those are the kinds of things you have to factor in. And we grow a huge amount of corn in Colorado, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres of corn. And a lot of that's used for cattle feed. A lot of that's used for corn oil. A lot of that's used for silage. Not as much grown directly for the sweet corn that you buy from Olathe in a given year. That's a very small percentage of it. So that's what we set out to do, is look at all the alternatives and see if those might broaden out to real and measurable water savings for all of Colorado.
Switching from corn and alfalfa to black-eyed peas is easier said than done. I want to play what a former water specialist from Colorado State University's Water Center, Joel Sneecloth, told you about black-eyed peas.
I mean, we could grow the heck out of them, but we flood the market. And as the old saying, one pickup load meets the market. A pickup load in a 5-gallon bucket of that product tanks the market.
Mike, what market factors are at play here?
So you've got these black-eyed peas that are very nutritious legume, and farmers, as Joel mentioned, can grow the heck out of them on the Eastern Plains in Colorado. The soil is set up for it. Their systems are set up for it. They're very quick learners, and they will do it if someone will buy it. Black-eyed peas are more popular in certain countries in Africa, certain parts of Asia, as a year-round crop, and also as a kind of a festival food. In the American South, you might be more familiar with eating black-eyed peas on a regular basis, but in the rest of the country, not so much. It's just not part of the usual bean mix and cowpea mix. Cowpeas are another name for black-eyed peas, not part of the garbanzo beans and chickpeas that you might use to get the same kind of protein. And so you have to find people who are willing to buy it. And there are people around the world willing to buy it. But if somebody in Peru who's getting paid a lot less per hour because their standard of living is very different and they haven't reached the point of the United States in terms of development, they will offer it for a price that's a lot lower than any farmer or rancher can in the United States for the same kind of crop. And then you got transport costs. And suddenly, as of this winter and spring, our transport costs for everything in the United States, whether it's a crop or any manufactured good, went way up because the price of gasoline and diesel went up more than $1 a gallon. All those factor in, and if come September, you've got this great crop, but it's sitting there in the silo or just by the railroad, and there's no one there who's willing to pay you to transport it to their part of the country, then you're stuck, and you're not going to get the cash you need to get you through to the next year.
One of the success stories you came across was with rye. I want to play some more of what Heather Dutton told you about San Luis Valley rye.
We set out to work with 10 farmers and have them plant 1,200 acres of rye for the water savings and the improvement to soil health and wind erosion. And then we said, of that, we'll commit to selling 300 acres of that. And farmers being farmers, the first year right out of the gate, they grew over 4,000 acres because they're like, wait a minute, this makes a ton of sense. I'm going to save water. I'll have a winter cover crop. And so a lot of people transitioned right away and grew rye.
Mike, tell us about the San Luis Valley rye and the impact it's having on water in Colorado.
Well, what they learned in growing rye in the San Luis Valley is that they could grow a great crop of rye with about a third of the water that it takes to grow most of the other crops that are common in San Luis Valley and other parts of Colorado. And some other advantages that have to do with the geography and just the culture of other parts of Colorado. And if anybody knows this who's listening, who has seen the winds blow in the winter across the San Luis Valley, and it's the same heavy winds that created the sand dunes as they run up against the Sangre de Cristos, it blows a lot of dust through the air, and then it drops it at the base of the Sangres. And so if you can have a winter cover crop like rye that not only grows for less water use, but also can hold down that soil and keep those major dust storms from happening in a lot of places, it's a double bonus. They found that it can grow very well. They found that there are very distinct water savings, but at some point, there's a limited market for it. Again, you might need 4,000 acres of rye. You don't need 100,000 acres of rye in the San Luis Valley. So getting farmers to switch from a significant amount of their existing crops to grow rye, perfectly willing to do it. But at the end, again, you still need that market. So then they move to, can we help create that market? Can you use private sector public partnership to find bakeries that are willing to make more creations out of rye bread, or at least mix in more rye flour with their normal flour? Can you find a distillery that's making rye whiskey or other rye flavored drinks, rye as an additive? And you can find that. So they're having a lot of success with it. There's still a lot of room left to grow. And there are people who are willing to help them out, whether it's from the state government or local government and local private partnerships. So we're happy to follow that and happy to illustrate that and follow where that goes in order to save water in Colorado.
Mike, you talked to some farmers who are making the switch to planting biofuel crops that are wary of the changing political whims. What can you tell us about that side of this?
This is just one of those great discovery journeys that we had in reporting this out, because I had no idea. I've written a little bit alternative jet fuels, but it had to do with basically taking used vegetable oil from fry cooks around the country and distilling it down to jet fuel that you can put into airplanes at high altitude and mix it in with regular jet fuel. I had no idea that you could grow a crop that looks like wheat. It's called camelina. And you press it and create this oil that is very pure and very much viable additive into kerosene that you use in jet fuel, and have a sustainable jet fuel that's at least 50% camelina, and that camelina grows really well on the western slope in Colorado. So it was exciting to go through that. And then, as you're probably about to ask, okay, well then what happens with the economics of that? And again, it's very complicated.
Mike, you, as you mentioned, went across the state to talk to different producers and different experts here. Give us one of those maybe aha moments that you had in reporting out this project and the idea of the solutions-based series.
Talking to Troy Waters, I think, is a great example on the western slope around Fruta. He is a grower who specializes in creating seed crops for other corporations that will then sell those seeds to other farmers around the country to plant as their seed stock. And there's a little more money in that because obviously they have higher standards. You have to grow a really clean and viable crop and be very reliable, because then you're asking other farmers to rely on it. And he is willing to try just about anything in order to make money on the western slope, and a multi-generation family farm, hoping to put the farm on to his son's family and continue the farm that way. So he is one who has tried camelina, and it grows really well. He loved being part of that experiment and thinking about sustainability from jet fuel, which is one of the most stubborn environmental problems we've got. But then you come across, again, more problems at the end of it. In order to have a viable group of farmers on the western slope growing camelina, you're going to need to build silos. You're going to need to build railroad stops and depots where the company is willing to send out a train that will pick up the camelina that you've grown for them. And that is something that farmers can't do on their own. That's something where you're going to need the government to come in and offer a grant, whether it's the Water Conservation Board or the State Ag Department, to help them grow that kind of infrastructure they're going to need to be part of that sustainable long-term future.
Mike, how much of the solution here is communication? Communicating to farmers what crops can use less water and still make money, communicating to consumers which foods are easier on the aquifers.
Absolutely. It's communication would help a lot, because you need a couple of points along the way. First, you need the farmers being able to communicate what help they're going to need in a given year, that if they're really going to make the switch, that more and more people from the state are going to be asking them to do. You need the farmers to be able to communicate very clearly, okay, we are willing to do that, but we are going to need a $50,000 grant to build this terminal or build this depot. We are going to need to build a silo and a railroad stop that will pick up the black-eyed peas and transport them. We're going to need then a marketing grant. And that's where you then bring in places from other regions of the state to say, we're perfectly willing to grow rye and then get it to a baker, but we need the baker to demand it. We need the baker to grow, have a recipe that people are willing to eat and people pay a little extra for, maybe it's 50 cents. And we're going to need to communicate to Colorado consumers that they can contribute. And people are very frustrated. They want to be able to contribute. So how can they contribute to the water solution in Colorado? One thing they can do is think about buying something different than they usually buy. So yes, communication is a key to all that. And we hope at the Sun to continue being part of that in the rest of the series as we talk about water solutions.
Michael Booth, my colleague here at the Colorado Sun, I thank you very much for the conversation today. If you want to read more of Mike's full story on the drought-resistant crops and their uses, you can find it and our entire series on water at coloradosun.com/water solutions series. And you can also find it on our free Colorado Sun app. And while you're checking out this series, you can certainly leave us your own questions about water in Colorado, and you can get the Colorado Sun delivered to your inbox every weekday through our morning Colorado Sun Sunriser newsletter. Mike, thanks again for joining me.
Thanks, Dave. We love exploring questions, but we love exploring reader questions even more. So glad you mentioned that, and we look forward to working on it.
As an award-winning nonprofit news outlet, we take our mission of credible, independent journalism seriously. You can check out our trust indicators at coloradosun.com/ethics. This episode was produced by the Colorado Sun with the services by Pirate Audio and Ed Words LLC. Our music is by the Denver musician Ent Manuel Alexander, a.k.a. Name Backwards. A link to the music is in our show notes, and a special thanks to Swallow Hill Music. I'm David Krause. See you next time.